Beyond the skyline, New York's architecture as a living conversation. To understand New York's architecture fully, one must look not only at its famous skyline, but also at the quieter spaces between buildings, the streets, bridges, parks, and neighborhoods where architecture shapes daily life. These spaces reveal that New York's architectural history is not just vertical, but deeply human. Neighborhood architecture, identity in brick and stone. While skyscrapers dominate global imagination, New York's true architectural soul lives in its neighborhoods. Each borough tells a different story. Brooklyn, once an independent city, developed with a more residential character. Tree-lined streets of brownstones, Romanesque churches, and early apartment houses reflect middle-class growth and immigrant aspiration. Areas like Brooklyn Heights and Park Slope showcase how architecture created community, not spectacle. The Bronx carries the marks of early 20th century ambition, Art Deco apartments, grand courthouses, and park-adjacent housing inspired by City Beautiful ideals. Despite periods of decline, its architecture remains a testament to resilience and renewal. Queens is a mosaic of architectural styles shaped by immigration. Tudor homes, modest bungalows, mid-century apartment blocks, and modern condos stand side by side, reflecting one of the most diverse populations on Earth. Staten Island, often overlooked, retains suburban and colonial architectural traditions, preserving a quieter, low-rise interpretation of New York life. Together, these boroughs prove that New York's architectural identity is not singular, it is plural. Bridges and infrastructure, architecture that connects. Few cities treat infrastructure as art the way New York does. Its bridges are not merely functional, they are architectural icons. The Brooklyn Bridge, completed in 1883, was a marvel of its time. Combining Gothic stone towers with steel cables, it symbolized industrial progress and human daring. It didn't just connect Manhattan and Brooklyn, it unified the city's future.
The Manhattan Bridge, Williamsburg Bridge, and George Washington Bridge followed, each reflecting changing engineering philosophies and aesthetic values. These structures turned movement into monument. Subways, tunnels, and elevated tracks also shaped architecture above ground. Stations, entrances, and viaducts influenced neighborhood development, proving that architecture extends beyond buildings into systems. Public space as architecture, parks, plazas, and streets. Architecture in New York is inseparable from public space. The creation of Central Park in the mid-19th century was a revolutionary act, designing nature as architecture. It introduced the idea that cities needed breathing room, not just buildings. Later projects like Bryant Park, Washington Square Park, and the High Line redefined how architecture interacts with people. The High Line, in particular, demonstrated how obsolete infrastructure could be transformed into vibrant urban space, influencing cities worldwide. These projects reflect a shift in architectural thinking, from domination of space to dialogue with it. Immigration and cultural expression. New York's architecture is inseparable from immigration. Every wave of newcomers left a physical imprint. Synagogues, churches, mosques, temples, and cultural centers rise across the city, each reflecting distinct architectural traditions adapted to New York's dense environment. Chinatown's compact buildings, Harlem's historic churches, and Little Italy's tenements tell stories of survival, adaptation, and identity. Tenement buildings, though often overcrowded and harsh, were architectural responses to mass migration. Over time, reforms transformed them into safer, healthier housing, proving that architecture can evolve ethically as well as structurally. contemporary icons, and the new vertical era. In recent decades, New York has entered a new architectural phase, defined by extreme height, advanced materials, and global capital. Ultra-thin residential towers rise along Billionaire's Row, reshaping the skyline once again. Buildings like 30 Hudson Yards, the Vessel, and the Oculus represent architecture as spectacle and experience. They blur the line between structure, sculpture, and social space. At the same time, critics question who these buildings serve. The debate over affordability, accessibility, and urban equity has become central to architectural discourse. Architecture is no longer judged only by beauty, but by impact. Sustainability and the architecture of responsibility. As climate change reshapes urban priorities, New York architecture faces its greatest challenge yet. Rising sea levels, extreme weather, and aging infrastructure demand new solutions. Architects now design with resilience in mind: flood-resistant foundations, green facades, energy-efficient systems, and adaptive reuse over demolition. Projects along the waterfront incorporate protective landscapes and elevated structures. The city that once raced to build the tallest now races to build the smartest. An unfinished story. New York's architectural history has no final chapter. It is an ongoing conversation between past and future, memory and invention. Old buildings are preserved, reimagined, or replaced. New forms emerge, sometimes controversial, sometimes visionary. What remains constant is the city's refusal to stand still. New York builds because it must, because its people change, its needs evolve, and its ambitions grow. Architecture here is not static art, it is motion captured in form. And so the city continues to rise, layer by layer, story by story, writing its history not in books alone, but in stone, steel, glass, and light.